Okay, good evening, friends and family of RAEL. I believe that everybody that watches and supports and carries the message and is in contact with us in some way or another, whether you comment or not, whether you just watch silently, and yeah, I think today on the 2nd of September 2020 is quite a big day in my life. Yeah, so I've always sort of found it. How's it, Andrew? I've always sort of found it very difficult to, even when I was doing well, give good self-appraisal. Clutchy, how's it, my brother? Lekker to see you. Andrew Brown, Gladwin, all those that found their recovery here. Beautiful. Michelle, Michael's mom. Lekker. Vanessa, my mom. Good evening. Felicity, that's been supporting me from day one behind the scenes. And it's a lot of your guys' messages and support and things behind the scenes that sometimes spurred a person on in the journey, the ongoing journey that we speak about in recovery. How's it, Duncan? Lee J, my colleague. How's it, Dad? And yeah, Robert. Lekker, Robert, to see you watching. Stephanie, Garth. Hey, lekker to see folks that have been through the program and things like that, still religiously watching in the evenings to the different things that Mr. Hall has built up over his years. And like I said earlier, I've always sort of struggled to give myself self-appraisal when I was doing good, and in the times that I did, I maybe even struggled with a bit of arrogance. And so I first of all, I think maybe I should start off with thanking everybody. I don't want to go individually because I hit a blank. It might not seem like it, but I honestly hit a blank in front of a camera, even if it is me that I'm seeing on the screen. I first of all want to say thank you to Mr. Hall for his experience. And I can't not thank the loved ones and family members and my sort of own household family that I have now. I can't not thank them, but what I mean is, I thank Mr. Hall in a way because he has the experience and he's put the time in to be able to deal with people like I was, and he's done that endlessly. Lekker, Garth. I'm glad the t-shirt fits. It's we're all unique in our own different way, unique but the same. And yeah, so I think after posting, after Mr. Hall putting a post up and things like that, there's many people that that ask me for help nowadays that maybe just a human trait, and I don't have anything against it. Maybe just a human trait that never used to look my way, or that through my own actions would just drive straight past me when they see me walking in the rain, or whatever the case might be, when I sometimes honestly was actually just walking to work, or trying to get life right. But I was caught in the grip of addiction, which is an excuse, but it also isn't an excuse. I just didn't know the way out. And most of the time, the people closest to us also don't know the way out. But as they get more experience in it, they start finding out and knowing that the manipulative part of addiction, and they start getting to know the answers a little bit better. And I think that's what happened with me. That my first couple of ugly mistakes, or not deliberate ugly mistakes, but my first couple of mistakes that affected my household at home, I used the addiction as an excuse and manipulated and still got my way and all of that. But only because of lack of experience. And I think as time went on, like I posted in my message earlier, that in 2014, I'd been associated and knew about Mr. Hall and about RAEL and all of that from before just before he started RAEL, and knew about his recovery and all of that. But 13 years ago, at 22, coming out of my first rehab, who wants to listen at the age of 22? When at the time in your belief system you thought that you had gotten yourself to where you were. And at that stage in my life, I still believed that I had a money problem and not a drug problem, because I was just convinced that I didn't have enough money to buy drugs. And always thought, okay, if I sell this, or if I just have enough of this or just enough of that. But hey, there was a void inside where it was just never enough. It was a void of at that stage knowing how much wrong I had done according to the morals and values that I was brought up with. Lots of things. And yeah, it still feels with the opportunity that Mr. Hall has given me, and coming from a place of total destruction, where I thought it was finished, it was done, it was gone. I can honestly say that I've experienced being raised from the dead. Not physically dead, or not far from physically dead, but raised from the dead in the sense of numb to the world, broken. Like I said, for the first 9 months in 2014, when I sat here, I couldn't even look face to face at anybody in our fellowship meetings. All I could do was look at the floor, and then it penetrated actually really where my behaviors and addiction and the destruction had gotten me from the last 9 years before that. And only then it struck me, wow, 9 years you were doing these things and going through this and all of that. And I think, by the time it got to about 2010, when I went to prison, I still don't dig that World Cup song. By the time I went to prison for the whole year in 2010, even though I had all these fancy ideas for all the foreigners and the travelers checks and all of that, I think it was maybe a blessing in disguise that I landed up in prison for that year. Only then I had time to think, to realize, like, no, I need to stop now. I have to stop now. And even wanting to stop, or after wanting to stop, it wasn't just a case of, okay, now you finish and you stopped. It was a fight. It was still struggling, going through different things, still performing the same behaviors that had gotten me in that position in the first place, and everything that goes along with addiction. But even on the days when I did sit on the pavement, or you know what I will tell you, that in 2007, my first RAEL meeting that I went to, I could hear, okay, no, Mr. Hall is talking sense and he's been there, and I could identify and relate to a lot of things concerning recovery. And the meetings went on and I was staying sober, and it seemed to be that I was getting it right. But I was very selective over what I would listen to. I hadn't surrendered completely yet, and all the things that Mr. Hall said in the meetings that was going to happen to me, or in general, if we hadn't changed our ways, I would be sitting there thinking, who, me? No, never. That's not going to happen to me. And those things started happening to me, and I went on a lot of 12-step calls, which is called carrying the message in recovery, when somebody phones and says that they want help or whatever. And like I said, I admired the way that in my time I could phone Mr. Hall at any time of the day, and he would ask me where you are. And at that stage in my life, there was many. I was almost Kurt Uncovered, where people's parents started finding out about the real things that I did, because the respectable mask and pretty face I would put on in front of parents and say the right things had to come off, because I'd been arrested a couple of times in front of crowds of people. I had pardon, Lekker Richie. Ah, there we go. I need to check Richie's picture there now. And from that time, when I would phone Mr. Hall, when I was on my downward, or even in my upward, at any time I could call him. And when I did call him, there wasn't many people that wanted to be seen with me in the area. There wasn't many people that would associate with me in public anymore, and all of that. But I couldn't understand, there at our Boerdersig Center, there was a shop called Memories. And Mr. Hall would meet me sometimes in the parking lot there, and then like walk with me and take me for coffee there. And it's those times that struck me the other day when I was walking in I was in Cork Bay the weekend, and I was in Canal Walk, and I was in a couple of other places. Couple of other places that I forgot existed, doing a couple of other things that I forgot that we could do. And taking, I don't want to say advantage, but living a sober life, and doing what people do that don't drink and use drugs and just catch on shit. And I would always, for a long time, I would always walk into a mall or walk into a place, and even though at times previously, before the age of like 22 and that, when the drugs really broke me down, I went from being a loud person and not caring who was there, to looking around and thinking, I wonder who knows that I've become this bad person, or that I've become what is this out here? Do you have business plans that requires funding? Are you in need of a personal loan? Oak Tree Capital Management offers small, medium, and large loans. Leja, don't you just want to remove this oak here, please? He's trying to sell shit here. And all we're trying to do here is sell hope, which costs nothing. Yeah, just remove this Grantham Duplessis. Because we're not here to try and sell loans and shit. We're here to try and spread the message of life and hope and recovery. And over here, the people that's watching, our very lives depend on this meeting, some of us. And I won't allow anything to play with my recovery. And yeah, I would always walk into crowds and things like that, even after being sober for a while. And we always told over here that we are something. And I think this evening's exercise, obviously I know everybody's name here, but I let them go around the meeting and say their name, their age, and a 3 minutes of their background, just to remind them who they are. And that's what worked for me, because I was always reminded that I didn't only do drugs and cause mayhem. I did do a lot of that as well, which there's consequences for. And I think the biggest consequences for that is the guilt and the heart soreness of what you go through after you realize the things that you done when you were driven by addiction. And yeah, so I could never understand how nobody wanted to be. Okay, I could understand why nobody wanted to be seen with me in the area and things like that. But to me it was strange that Mr. Hall didn't mind meeting me in the parking lot and then going for coffee, having a recovery chat and all of that. And like I said, at the time I didn't have a very good reputation. The sort of mask and the little face I used to put on for people's parents and things like that. It was out in the open that I was on drugs, I was stealing, I was housebreaking, I'd been locked up a couple of times, and all of that. And I think that has made a big difference in my recovery. In the times that I did go down after that, purely only because I didn't want to listen and still thought that I had the answers, like most addicts do, like most human beings do, actually. And it's very difficult to touch on only one topic and carry on speaking about that, because there's different stories and situations of the path that I walked. Yeah, so that intrigued me a lot. It always when I was in trouble, or even sometimes when I had my back against the wall, hey, who are you gonna call? Like Mr. Hall, kind of thing. And the point that I'm getting to is that we all have to walk our own path, and own things have to happen to us. Our families, our girlfriends, our loved ones. Some relationships must be broken along the way. Some things you have to go through to realize that you're causing damage. And I'll never forget. I knew Mr. Hall's other number out of my head, even at that time, and he was also known for helping, going to go testify for them, and then business. He would then try and help them in their recovery and give them work and things like that. And also countless chances. And there were some of those that came right and some of those that didn't. But those that came right, if they weren't given that chance over and over again sometimes, have been right. Dead. That is the point that I'm trying to make. And we all have to walk our own, and Mr. Hall was sort of known for that at the time. And I phoned him from prison now. And he had been not struggling with me, but supporting me and still keeping on with me, that I would always just tell him, that, yeah, I'm drinking and smoking a bit of weed again, and it's not making my life unmanageable. But is that a bit better, Richie? I don't know why it's lagging. Maybe it's your 20 meg line at home. It's being interrupted. Or it could be the weather. Eh? It could be the weather. But any which way, so I had quite a couple of cases running in 2009. I was going to court at least 2 or 3 times a month at a stage. And because of my own fault and not listening and things like that, I wasn't just getting bailed and all of that out anymore. So I land up at Goodwood Prison, and then I think, okay, now I'm going to phone Mr. Hall. But I eventually only sort of organized to be able to get a phone call and all of that after about 2 weeks. And now the Mr. Hall has walked with me from 2006 on and off, and in the times I didn't listen, then I would end up catching on cuck, and in other times I would be doing okay if I sort of stuck to what he told me. So anyways, I wasn't sticking to what he told me for quite a while. I ended up getting locked up, and he had known that I'd been using for a while again and all of that. This is in 2010, eh? And I phoned him from Goodwood Prison, and I say to him, okay, because my mom wasn't answering the phone anymore, because she already knew the number of the call boxes in the prison. And I promised so many times I'm not going to catch on nonsense to go back there. And so anyways, I'm checking like, hey, should I, shouldn't I? So I phoned Mr. Hall, and I tell him, Mr. Hall, I'm in Goodwood Prison, and do you think there's a way of maybe being in court when I have to be there again and getting me out and all of that? So he asked me, are you sober? So I said, yeah, no, I'm sober. I'm doing well and all of that. So then he said to me, well, then it seems to be working for you if you're sober. And I spent another almost 10 months there. And that was part of my journey. I suppose if I had listened in the first place, I wouldn't have been there. But that is just part of the journey that Mr. Hall walked with me in terms of recovery. And we always say it here that parents, loved ones, and people surrounding the addict, it's difficult for them to handle one. But over here we're handling up to 30 at a time. But the only difference is, and I use the hospitality industry as an example a lot of the time. The only difference is that, can you imagine telling a person that isn't a chef to go and run the kitchen of Lagoon Beach Hotel and Spa for one night when there's a massive function there. They're gonna spin out of control. They're not gonna do the right things. They're not gonna have the experience, and I think that is where I take my hat off to Mr. Wall in respect of the diligence and discipline that he shows in working his own program and carrying the message. Is that we've seen rehabs go up, we've seen them close down, we've seen supposed to be social workers that act in the good or best interest of the people. We've seen people come up for a while and say they're there to help the people. Thanks, Angus. But then we've also seen them disappear. We've also had the people come to the center and you can identify with the places that they've been and things and the answers that they thought they would get from the fly-by-nights. But I think my most inspiring or motivating point towards recovery and keeping on is probably Mr. Hall's story himself. Is in the sense of everybody wants to say, do as I say, don't do as I do. But I think there's times that if you watch carefully or you're close enough to Mr. Hall to see how he does his recovery, is that you almost don't even need to listen to what he says. You can just watch what he does. Because obviously actions speak louder than words. But I think what I've learned the most is that our walk needs to match our talk. And the biggest reason why I wanted to stop using is because I couldn't keep promises to myself anymore. What I promised myself I couldn't keep to. What I promised other people, I couldn't stick to those promises. And I couldn't stick to anything I said. And if you listen in our meetings and you hear what Mr. Hall says and things like that, and you see what he does, then it's proof that his walk matches his talk. And that's the attitude that I took. And the quality that I try to build on having is that if you say you're gonna be there a certain time, or if you say you're gonna do something, or you say that something works like this, he always taught us something as simple as shaving. I can't teach somebody on the program to shave if I'm unshaven. I can't teach somebody to not hold resentments or to not steal if I'm stealing and holding resentments. And I think over time, the amount of hours and time out of his own life that I've seen him put into people, and the results that he's gotten from it, is the only thing that has worked for me to stay sober. I wouldn't say I'm an addict by default, but without me practicing or going up the escalator that's moving down, I will automatically use. Like we say all the time in recovery that we're either working on our relapse or our recovery. So if you're not doing anything, if you're not going to meetings, if you're not actively trying to work on yourself, then you are working on your relapse. And that's what we mean when we say that that you're either working on your relapse or your recovery. So at the moment, here on the farm, like I said, I've went round this evening and given everybody a couple of minutes just to say who they are and what they think they're good at and who they want to be, and just so that they can hear it out of their own mouths in an open forum, so that when one of us want to give up, we can remind each other and say, hey, like, this hasn't worked for you before, or this is what you said you want to be, and get to know each other. And over here on the farm, especially after a while of getting to know people, we become very, very close, because it's a case that I explained in this afternoon's meeting. It's a case that if we've all were on the Titanic and shipwrecked, which ultimately most of us get here shipwrecked, okay, and what happens is that we're all on the same lifeboat here, and some oaks, sometimes the buoy is thrown out to them and they hang on it, and sometimes all they need to do is just keep hanging on that buoy and not let go, because if they let go, they're going to drown. And that's exactly how it is with addiction recovery. If we let go of our recovery, we're going to start drowning by our addiction. And we're all on that lifeboat over here together at RAEL, which I think is very important, because I think we've all escaped death by being here to a certain extent. And I was very emotional earlier, because on my way back to the farm from Cape Town, because most of the completely alone time that I have is either on my way down to Cape Town from the farm, or on my way back up to Cape Town, like completely alone, where it's quiet and I can actually absorb what's really going on in life and where I'm at and all of that. All the other times is around people and just doing the normal life's things and staying up to date with doing my best to try and help my fiance Mal run the house and the normal life's things. And today I really asked myself on my way up, like, how did you get here? Not here, like traveling the car, but I really asked myself, how did you get here to this place of contentment, to this place of okayness, this place of happiness, this place of almost satisfaction, where I was walking the dog the other night with Jordan, and a video popped up on the phone of people having shooters and drinking and all of that, and it was almost a weird feeling to look at it, and then it looks all lacquer and all of that, and a lot of people do that as fun and escape, use that as an escape, but some people do that to escape life and never come back to reality. And yeah, Lee J, you do, but that's okay. I'm just reading some of the comments here. And I was thinking, like obviously I have, they say the first sign of insanity is talking to yourself and all of that. And the second sign is answering yourself. But sometimes we need to take inventory as people. And I was reflecting on, like I said to you, the first time I got here with two different shoes on. And I was reflecting where I had been and walked and traveled in my life, and thinking to myself, how many friends have been lost along the way that didn't make it? How many friends had died on the streets, or took their own lives, or overdosed, or was in accidents, or organs that gave in that was drug related, or got mental illnesses that were drug related. And here I am, that I can tell you stories of near death experiences, from a kid choking on a grape to all kinds of things, getting knocked over on a bicycle, being in car accidents of another guy's parents' car who we stole or took without permission, to overdosing and being in hospital, chasing animals around the hospital, or seeing animals. I couldn't chase them because I was in a wheelchair for the first few days. To nearly overdosing on heroin, to having different bodily, physical sort of disorders and things from the drugs. And I think that's maybe the physical side of things, but having all this built up pain and disappointment and things that we go through as addicts, that nobody understands as well as another addict does. That I was, even at a stage, the one or two tears rolled down my face in the car, thinking like, yo, how did you get here? Thinking of the times that I tried to stop on my own steam without any guidance, where I'd already been on the streets, was staying in a tent in one of my friend's yards, went cold turkey, got a job. My first car at that time was still standing outside my parents' house. I got a job again, tried to rebuild life, just to all go down with the escalator again and think I had arrived. So, one of the biggest things I think that Mr. Hall has taught me is to never think that you've arrived. And he has said it in words, but I've seen it more in actions. That you keep going and keep going and keep going. And I don't want anybody to feel hopeless or to lose hope, in a sense. But 15 years of uninterrupted sobriety in our country is probably like 100 years in America. I don't think that recovery is taken seriously enough. I think that the people looking for recovery nowadays get it possibly a little bit too easy. And like I said in my message this afternoon, that I was so beaten up by the time I got picked up by Mr. Hall with a RAEL bakkie in 2014, that I was literally laying in the back of the RAEL bakkie with a blanket over my head, because I didn't want to see where I was going to. Because honestly, in my mind, I was so petrified of myself and I didn't want to know the way back. Wherever I was going to, it didn't matter where it was, as long as it wasn't in that space and place that I was in anymore. At that stage, I think I had already had about 4 or 5 close friends that had taken their own lives and overdosed. As I sit here this evening, I think out of the sort of 12 of us that in our group of friends that sort of progressed to heroin more or less the same time, or just about 6 months to a year apart, only 3 of us are still alive. And I'm the only one that's sober. The other one lives on the streets at the robots, and the other one does sexual favors for men and keeps his addiction active like that. And all the people that were lost, I think, was good people growing up. But it's almost like I was thinking of a litter of whatever animal in the wild. Some maybe fall off a cliff, others get eaten by a tiger or a lion, other ones starve to death. And I think that's the different things and challenges that we face in today's life of trying to grow up in the world that we live in. Is everybody's in competition with everybody, and maybe like being a litter of whatever animal, like I said, we get different things across our paths that take us out. Some people are sadly taken out by different health issues. Some people are taken out by addiction. Some people are taken out by depression. Some people are taken out by car accidents. And I think it was the tears rolling down my face was obviously, first of all, because nobody was watching, because most of us men today find it difficult to cry in public, and also because of gratitude of where I had come from. And that is why I can't go past somebody in the street that is known as a behi and have something on me and not give it to them. Probably because I've been there. Probably because I've been there. And probably because I wasn't given up on. I wasn't only given one chance. To be honest with you, when I came back to RAEL, I was probably on chance 340. But don't give up on your family or your loved ones or the addicted person. That is like my biggest plea with anybody. I'm not asking anybody to enable them, because I wouldn't have been sober if I could still sit in my parents' house, steal all their things, and carry on dragging. I would have either been dead or I would have been together with them in an empty house. Because I'm sure in that state, if I had the opportunity to, I would have taken the ceiling fans, I would have taken the light switches, I would have taken the door handles. And that is the nature of addiction. But I think I've been taught the opposite. If taking is the nature of addiction, then the nature of recovery is probably giving. And the more we give, the better the quality of our recovery is, what I've learned. And that's what I've seen in Mr. Hall. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that's supported along the way. I know it might have maybe sounded like a bit of a flat line or a bit of a mono meeting, but I think it comes from a place of serenity or gratitude to the way I feel. It's difficult to, even though I've been promoted to being the CEO of RAEL, it's almost difficult to say it, because I still sometimes feel unworthy. But thank you to Mr. Hall for making me feel worthy and telling me the truth of how to do recovery, and telling me the truth of what will happen if I get babied, or if I do things in a certain way. So thank you all for that support and things like that. And yeah, I hope to see many more people that was in my situation recover the way I have. And we see it on a daily basis, yeah. Good guys that also used to push trolleys and stand by robots and all of that were working, that had families. There's guys here that have had 25-year long careers working at the same places, but got caught in the grip of something that doesn't discriminate. And addiction will probably, in my opinion, is probably the greatest equalizer. So thank you to all the comments and the people that are there for moral support. We'll keep seeing you in the evening, because like I know, I've been that guy that's sometimes just needed somebody to play me a video. I'll never forget coming back to RAEL. Sorry, just quickly before I end off. Never forget coming to RAEL in 2014. I'd went through a tough time between 2007 and 2014. Different psych wards and institutions, prisons and things. But it was mostly because I didn't want to listen. And the way I came back or got connected with Mr. Hall again was I wasn't allowed in my mom's house, so she would give me food through the gate, and obviously because of my own actions I lived on the streets and sometimes also stayed by another place that helped me. It was 101 the Urban Street at the time. Obviously, I don't want to mention too many names and things like that. I'm not sure if the people would appreciate it. And that house was also known for a very bad stigma. But that house gave me many a night a place to sleep and a plate of food. And I never forget, I went down to my mom the one evening, because I was a little bit braver to go down when my dad was working night shift. My mom wouldn't allow me into the house. But this specific night, Mr. Hall was on CTV with Solly Philander, and at that stage I had sort of accepted that this is going to be my situation until the day I die. Like I said, I'd been to psych wards, I'd seen psychologists, I'd tried the different medications that the doctors had given me and all of that, and And then she showed me a show. She said I must come inside and walk straight to the middle of the lounge and not touch anything. And I must only watch the TV. But I needed to stand next to her while she locks the gate and unlocks the gate to let me in. And I wasn't allowed to look at anything besides the TV. And I'm sure a lot of us have been in that situation. I know parents that have safety gates on their bedroom doors. And I watched that, and I think that is where the spark came back into me. Spark of hope for a better life again. Because at that stage I had given up completely. I didn't think that my life would be any different. I didn't even have a fleeting glimpse that my life would be the way it is today. So that was because of a message shared. Sorry, my mouth's very dry and my glass is empty. My glass of Coca-Cola, by the way. And that is how it all restarted in me again. After being to countless rehabs and at that stage and just given up hope. Didn't believe that rehabs worked anymore. I didn't think that I could do this. I was taught certain things by different rehabs and things like that. And I would just get back home, do the same thing again. Couple of days or months or whatever. And each time I came out of rehab or out of prison or out of hospital, then I'd be given the benefit of the doubt. But I was still sick. Over a year I've been taught how to get unsick. And how to stay well. Okay, so thank you all for watching. God bless you. Thank you very much for all the comments and inspirations and all of that. And I beg of you to please share to maybe reach the still suffering addict, that him and his family or her and her family can just maybe find that way out of the answer or something that can trigger off that spark of hope inside me that was inside them, that was triggered off inside me just by watching a simple video that was shared by Mr. Hall a couple of years ago. Thank you, RAEL and Mr. Hall, for carrying the message to me and that I can sit here tonight. Lekker. Thanks, Duncan, and all our other friends that have been watching. I sort of lose track a little bit with the comments, but I always go through them afterwards, and it's much appreciated. Thank you all. God bless. Don't forget to share. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Thank you to the RAEL organization that I can sit here live tonight by God's grace. Amen. God bless.